Are you serious, Daniel? I stared at my phone, reading the text from my son for the third time. Mom, I think it's best if you don't attend the wedding. We want to avoid any awkwardness or confusion. I'm Olivia Parker, 48 years old, and never in a million years did I think I'd be excluded from my own son's wedding. The reason? Apparently, I looked too young. This message had come just 3 weeks before the big day. I had spent months helping with the wedding preparations and had already contributed half the cost of the venue. In a panic, I dialed Daniel's number, my fingers trembling as I held the phone to my ear. When he picked up, his tone was cold and unfamiliar. Mom, it's just that Sarah is worried about the photos. She's concerned that with you looking so young, people might get confused, he said, his discomfort obvious. Sarah, my soon-to-be daughter-in-law, had always been distant. She'd been polite but never warm. Now, everything clicked: her exclusion of me from dress shopping, the bridal shower I wasn't invited to, and the rehearsal dinner that was suddenly immediate family only. Daniel, I'm your mother. I gave birth to you when I was just 19. Just because I take care of myself doesn't mean I should be shut out of your wedding, I said, my voice cracking despite my best efforts to stay composed. Sarah's worried it might be awkward for her family. They're very traditional, and with you looking so, he trailed off, not quite knowing how to finish the sentence. Sarah's family wasn't exactly open-minded, and I suspected they weren't too keen on having me around. So, I'm being uninvited because I don't look old enough? Is that it? Is this about the Instagram photos? I could barely believe what I was hearing. Mom, please don't make this harder than it already is. Sarah's stressed about making everything perfect. The word perfect hung in the air like a weight, as it always did when Sarah talked about the wedding. I thought about all her posts, perfect engagement photos, perfect wedding plans, perfect everything. I clearly didn't fit into her flawless vision. I helped pay for half of the venue, I reminded him, my voice quieter now. We'll reimburse you, he said quickly. Sarah's parents are taking care of it. That's when I realized this wasn't an impromptu decision. This was planned. They'd been waiting for everything to be in place before pushing me aside. But why? It couldn't be just my appearance. Later that evening, I received a text from Sarah. I hope you understand, Olivia, we're just trying to do what's best for everyone, and don't worry about the venue cost. My parents are handling it now. I stared at the message, noticing how she had dropped the mom she had used for the past year. Something felt off. Sarah's parents weren't wealthy. They had made it clear they had a limited budget during our earlier discussions. So, how were they suddenly able to cover my share of the venue costs? I immediately called my best friend, Lisa, who had been helping with the wedding planning. Something doesn't add up, I told her. Sarah's parents couldn't even afford the flowers last month, and now they're paying for the venue? Lisa was silent for a beat before replying, Olivia, there's something you need to hear. I didn't want to believe it, but I overheard Sarah talking to her mom last week during the cake tasting. She mentioned, once the papers are signed, the house will be ours. My blood ran cold. The house, my house, the one I inherited from my grandmother, the one I had considered gifting to Daniel for the wedding, but I hadn't told Sarah about it. I'd only discussed it privately with Daniel. There's more, Lisa continued. Sarah's been telling people you've had work done, implying that's why you look so young. She's painting a picture of you as this vain, superficial woman who cares more about her appearance than family. I felt sick. All those times Sarah had asked about my skincare, my workouts, she had been gathering information, building a case to justify my exclusion, to make it seem like it was my fault. As I sat there, processing everything, my phone buzzed again. It was a message from Daniel's cousin, Amy, who worked at the local courthouse. Olivia, you need to meet me. It's about Sarah, and you won't believe what I found. I read the message, heart racing. What else was Sarah hiding? And what was her real plan once she became a part of the family? The next morning, I met Amy at a quiet coffee shop near the courthouse. Her face was serious as she slid a folder toward me. I shouldn't be showing you this, she said quietly, but I ran a background check on Sarah. Olivia, this is her third engagement in 5 years, and there's a pattern. My hands shook as I opened the folder, revealing court documents, property records, and newspaper clippings. The stories were eerily similar. Sarah had been engaged to wealthy men, each with a close relationship to their mothers, and in every case, there had been a family dispute just before the wedding. Look at this, Amy said, pointing to a particular document. Her last fiancé's mother signed over her house 2 weeks before the wedding. A month later, Sarah broke off the engagement but kept the property. I felt nauseous. And the one before that? I asked. Same story, but with a vacation home in Colorado. After the breakup, Sarah claimed emotional distress and threatened a lawsuit. The family settled to avoid a scandal. I thought about my house, my grandmother's house, and how close I had come to giving it to Daniel. Does Daniel know about this? I asked, my voice trembling. Amy shook her head. I doubt it. She's careful, changes her name slightly each time, moves to different states. Most of this wouldn't show up in a typical background check. Just then, my phone buzzed again. Another message from Sarah. Olivia, I hope you're not upset about the wedding. I'm just trying to protect Daniel from any embarrassment. By the way, have you thought more about that wedding gift you mentioned? Her audacity was unbelievable. Even now, she was trying to manipulate me. There's more, Amy said, pulling out another document. Sarah's parents filed for bankruptcy 3 months ago. They couldn't even afford a coffee maker, let alone a wedding venue. Then where's the money coming from? I asked the question that had been growing in the back of my mind. Credit cards, loans, all under Daniel's name. She's been adding herself to his accounts, opening new cards. The spending began right after the engagement. I felt the world spin as I processed the words. My son wasn't just being manipulated, he was being set up to lose everything. The wedding's in 2 weeks, I said. What am I supposed to do? Daniel won't believe me if I just tell him. Amy gave me a grim smile. That's why I have this. She pulled out a small USB drive. Security footage from the courthouse. Sarah came in last week with another man, talking about property transfers and prenuptial agreements. She had no idea I was working that day, or that our new system records audio. I stared at the small device that could unravel Sarah's entire plan, but I knew I had to be strategic. If I moved too hastily, she'd turn it around and make me the villain. There's one more thing, Amy added. The wedding venue, Sarah's been secretly relocating it. Only select guests are being notified. I think you can guess who's not on that list. Now everything clicked into place. The sudden insistence on reimbursing me for the venue, the odd excuses about the rehearsal dinner. Sarah wasn't just trying to push me out, she was planning to host the wedding without me even knowing where it was. I took a steadying breath, surprisingly calm. Okay, I said, here's what we're going to do. I spent the next hour explaining my plan to Amy. It wasn't enough to simply expose Sarah. We needed to ensure Daniel saw the truth for himself, and I knew exactly how to make that happen. As I walked out of the coffee shop, my phone buzzed once more. Another message from Sarah. Just checking in, you're okay with not coming to the wedding, right? Daniel's really hoping you won't make this harder. We'd hate for it to affect your relationship with him. I smirked at my phone, the USB drive safely tucked away in my purse, and the plan coming together. Of course, I texted back. I understand completely. I just want what's best for Daniel. Sarah's reply was instant. You're so understanding. I knew you'd see it my way. And about the house. I left her message unread. Let her think she had won. In 2 weeks, on what should have been my son's wedding day, everyone would know exactly why Sarah didn't want me there, and it had nothing to do with how young I looked. The wedding day arrived clear and bright. Thanks to Amy, I knew exactly where the real ceremony was happening, a small chapel on the outskirts of town, not the venue Sarah had originally booked. I sat in my car, watching guests arrive. Sarah had invited everyone she needed, Daniel's business partners, extended family, and anyone who might influence future assets. She'd even invited Aunt Helen, who owned a lot of property, much of which had always been promised to Daniel. At exactly 2 p.m., I walked into the chapel. The gasps were instant. Olivia, Sarah's mother exclaimed, you're not supposed to be here. Sarah, who must have heard the commotion from the bridal room, came rushing out in her wedding dress, her steps dramatic. What are you doing here? You can't be here, she shouted. I smiled, calm and collected. Actually, I can. You see, I own this chapel. The color drained from Sarah's face. What? I bought it last week. Interesting thing about property records, they're public, just like bankruptcy filings, credit card applications, and court records from 2 other states. Daniel stepped forward, clearly confused. Mom, what are you talking about? Show them, I said to Amy, who was already setting up a projector. The footage from the courthouse appeared on the chapel wall. There was Sarah, sitting with an unknown man, discussing her plans in detail. Once I get the house signed over, we'll move forward with the original plan. Sarah's voice echoed through the speakers. His mother is the only obstacle, but I've convinced Daniel she's too embarrassing to have at the wedding. Once she's out of the way, The footage continued, revealing Sarah's entire scheme, the planned property transfers, the credit cards under Daniel's name, and even her agreement with the man to sell my house once it was hers. "Turn it off," Sarah screamed. But it was too late. Daniel stood, frozen, staring at the screen. "The credit cards, the loan, that's why you insisted on joint accounts right after the engagement," he said quietly. Sarah's facade shattered. "Danny, I can explain." "Like you explained to your last two fiancés?" I asked calmly. Amy began handing out copies of the court documents to the stunned guests. 3 engagements in 5 years, I continued. 3 families nearly bankrupted, 3 properties stolen or extorted. Did you really think no one would uncover the pattern? The chapel erupted into chaos. Sarah's parents tried to slip out but were stopped by Daniel's cousin, who was a local cop. "We should probably talk about those fraudulent loan applications," he said. Daniel walked over to me, his face pale. "Mom, I'm so sorry, I should have listened, I should have known you'd never." I pulled him into a hug, feeling his body tremble. "It's okay, honey, she fooled a lot of people." Sarah made one last desperate attempt. "Everything I did was for us, Danny, for our future. Your mother was trying to control you, keep you from having the perfect life we deserved." "The only thing my mother did," Daniel said firmly, "was protect me from making the biggest mistake of my life." As Sarah was escorted out, still protesting, I looked around the chapel. The perfect wedding Sarah had planned was indeed unforgettable, but not in the way she had envisioned. Later that night, Daniel and I sat on my porch, at the house that had nearly been a part of Sarah's scheme. "How did you know?" he asked. "About everything?" I smiled, thinking of my own mother, my grandmother, all the strong women who had taught me to trust my instincts. Sometimes, when people tell you that you're too much of something, too young, too difficult, too anything, it means you're just hard to deceive. Daniel nodded, understanding for the first time. "I should have known that anyone who had a problem with you wasn't right for our family." As we sat there, I felt deeply grateful, not just for avoiding disaster, but for the chance to show my son what true family loyalty looked like. Sometimes, looking too young isn't a curse. It's simply the universe's way of keeping you sharp enough to protect what truly matters. And Sarah? Last I heard, she'd moved to another state, likely searching for her next perfect target, but she'd learned an important lesson. Never underestimate a mother who refuses to act her age. Thanks for watching. See you again in the next video. Stay stunned.